Yoruba Nation agitators have been threatened by the federal government. This was in reaction to a protest held by the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination, NINAS, an umbrella body for self-determination groups in the country at the United Nations headquarters in New York, in the United States. Now, members of the self-determination groups representing the Yoruba, Southeast, Southwest, and the Middle Belt were seen displaying placards with different inscriptions and chanted anti-oppression songs. They were also seen chanting, "We want the Yoruba Nation now," "Declare independent Biafra now," and some of the protesters held Yoruba Nation and IPOB flags. The presidency, however, faulted the Yoruba Nation agitators for keeping association with the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. In a statement, the senior special assistant to the president on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, the federal government also threatened to judge the Yoruba Nation agitators by the company they keep, saying that no one will take them seriously. Well, joining us to discuss this is Obinna Chukwu, he's a legal practitioner. We also have Babashola Adegui, he's a political analyst, and Ni Babade is an international journalist. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So I'm going to start with you, Babashola. It's interesting that the presidency is saying this again. The presidency has said over and over again about these agitators that nobody will take them seriously. And now they're reiterating that they will judge them by the company they keep. What exactly do you think the federal government is referring to?
Well, when I heard we will judge you by the company you keep, it sounded as a threat or a way of blackmailing a group of people agitating for rule, or you get. So when I heard that, I went further to see why. And I heard that because the Nigerian government has declared IPOB as a terrorist organization. So for the Yoruba Nation or agitators to be in alliance with the IPOB, then they will also regard us, the Yoruba Nation agitators, as terrorists. And that is exactly what I discovered. And the first question I asked myself, there's going to be a United Nations General Assembly today. Everybody was aware before today. Anybody can go there and agitate. Coming together against the government or agitating for self-determination, or self-determination, I don't see anything wrong in doing that. But the first question is IPOB a terrorist organization?
But it has been declared a terrorist organization by the government in Nigeria, so they do see them as a threat to the government. So are they really wrong in saying that you associating with people they term as terrorists means that you might just be judged in the same light?
Well, from their own angle, yes, they have every right to declare them as a terrorist organization, as even the Yoruba organization for allying with them. But the truth is, when we are talking of terrorist organization, IPOB is not. Every one of them, both IPOB and the Yoruba Nation agitators, have the same interest. And what is that? What is our interest? It is the self-determination. It is about having their own nations. So if you are now saying, because of that, you want to raise your hammer on the Yoruba agitators, then definitely you are not being reasonable in what agitation is all about. Mm-hmm. It is all about, one thing that this government has even refused to realize is this: when people are agitating, listen to them, invite them. How many of these people has this government actually invited for maybe a rapport to even hear them out? There is agitation from left, right. Now it is Middle East. Middle Belt. Mm-hmm. Now it's Middle Belt. Before you know it, maybe some other part. Then it means that the government in control of this nation is not really getting it. It is not about declaring some people, attacking a group of people. No, it is not all about, or trying to blackmail.
Are you saying that the government is picking and choosing who they want to attend to or those they want to hear out?
Well, for me, the government is only interested in those they want to hear out. If not...
Who are these people?
There are people that are talking about the interests of the government, the pro-government, the people that will make the government happy. Those are the people this government is actually interested in. Once the government discovers that you are anti-government or you are a critic or saying something that does not go down well with them, they see you on the opposite side of the ring. So if this government is doing this, then definitely you can all see what happened with the media when the media houses started disclosing a lot of things happening. We know how the NBC sent mail to every one of them to stop broadcasting some things in respect of the government. How they stop the media houses from using social media. It is all about them.
Interesting. Let me come to you, Barrister Obinna. You are a lawyer, and it's interesting because a lot of people ask, is it unlawful to ask for secession within a country, an entity like Nigeria? Is it illegal to ask for self-determination? And for the case of IPOB, they have been, of course, that's what we said, been prescribed as a terrorist group. So why should the government be criticized for saying that they should not be associated with, rather that the Yoruba Nation and the Middle Belt groups should not be associating with IPOB?
Okay, first, thank you for having me. The question as to whether or not self-determination is unlawful, I think it's very clear. The Nigerian law, even international law, supports self-determination. Let's look at it from this angle. It's like a man who has, who married a wife, maybe more wives, and one of the wives wakes up one morning and said, "I'm tired, I do not want to marry again." The law has provided the way or the leeway through which such a marriage can be dissolved. And the law says you have to go through the court or either through the high court or through the customary court in order to dissolve the marriage. The same thing applies to a country where you have a dominance or ethnic nationalities in a particular country who that may want to self-determine or may want to have a separate nation. I do not think that there is anything wrong in even tribes in Nigeria saying that they want a separate nation. It is expected when you have a country that has more than 500 or more ethnic groups, according to some of the books that I read, there is bound to be altercation, there is bound to be disagreement. People will disagree, even to the point that they will say that I do not want to belong to that particular nation. It's not something that one will not expect in a union of many nations or union of many people. But the problem there is the way federal government is handling it. I think federal government is looking at it from the angle that we are government. These people are against government. No, they are not against government. All that federal government needed to have done or needs to do is they are Nigerians, whether it's from the southwest, whether it's from the middle belt, whether it's from the southeast. They are all these geopolitical zones are the makeup of Nigeria. So anytime you have something like that, the best thing to do would have been to set up a commission. It's even surprising that Nigeria does not have an agency that deals with some of these protests, that deals with disagreements. A nation like Nigeria that has so many tribal groups and all that needs to have a full agency that should be looking into some of these things. Okay, look at, we have the Constitution. Nigerian Constitution tries to solve that problem by inserting in the Constitution allowing for federal character so that there will not be a dominance of one particular ethnic group in the affairs of government. How has government been able to implement federal character? There is a commission, but how has Nigerian government been able to ensure that the Federal Character Commission does the work? And in our constitution, I think either section 16 or so, empowers government to redistribute wealth after a certain period of time. Because the law anticipated that after a certain period of time, some few people that may be close to government or close to governance or have relationship with people that are in power, they may have either through government patronage acquired so much wealth that government needs to come in to redistribute wealth. The Constitution also says the wealth should not be concentrated in the hands of a few. But government, Nigerian government, not really per se this present government, successive regimes have failed Nigerians, and that have given rise to the agitations from some of the ethnic groups in Nigeria. The truth remains that to self-determine, it is an order that the law allows. And again, looking at it from the point, even when the IPOB started, all that they were asking is referendum. It's still a process of law. Referendum is what the law provides, that whenever a particular group wants an autonomy, that particular group will go through it via having a referendum, which will show whether or not they support it.
All right, let me go to Babade. You're, of course, an international journalist, and just as you all know, the United Nations is going to have their General Assembly, and our president is going to be in attendance. And there are lots of things that have happened in the country that has given the world, our attention of sorts. We had the EndSARS in 2020, and the whole world was looking at Nigeria. And now we're dealing with banditry. The U.S. Senate has withheld sales of some of the equipments that we need to fight terrorism, pointing fingers to human rights abuses. But I'm going somewhere. There has to be a reason why we're having all of these non-state actors creeping up from different parts of the country. Now, IPOB has been there for a long time. We all know this. But now we're seeing more and more agitations from different parts of the country. So let's talk about the reason why these non-state actors keep increasing in their number, and why we're going to keep having these protests outside the United Nations from today up until tomorrow, and maybe in the days after.
Well, I can hardly hear you, but
oh my goodness, I think that we have a poor connection from you, so we'll try again. Maybe we'll just get you on the telephone. But I'm going to come back to you, Babashala, because we're unable to get Babade. Let's talk about the reason why we're having these agitations, which we're having a Sunday Igboho. Nnamdi Kanu has been around for a long time. Even under the Jonathan administration, we had Radio Biafra, a rogue radio station. And now we're seeing the Middle Belts Forum. We're seeing a lot more people creeping up and having a say. Let's talk about the underlying reasons as to why we're here.
Well, the main reason why we are here is because of the nepotism. Yeah, whereby the government is more interested in one part of area, in one part of the nation, than the others. If you look at the ministers, if you look at the people, heads of parastatals, agency, those in ministry or holding one position or the other, you will discover that they are being occupied by majorly people from a particular tribe. So when for example, the IPOB actually started because they felt that they are not being recognized in Nigeria. So they wanted a situation whereby they will be recognized, whereby, okay, if you are not interested in let us go. So that is.
But then again, IPOB started under, it gained more prominence under the Jonathan administration, an administration headed by a governor from the South. So is this really a Buhari administration problem?
It is not about Buhari administration problem. If we are to look at it right from the 1960s, I think the people from the Southeast actually had only one president. well, one president that actually came from that southeast. For the past 1960 up to this now, we're talking of about 15 years or 61 years now. Now, for good 61 years, a particular part of the nation has ruled, and just once. And anytime we are talking about who is going to be president, you just discover that the southeast is not being considered for the position of that president or any of those high positions. So they felt that they are not welcomed.
But are there not better ways? Because I was going to ask that question to Barrister Chukwu. Is it not about the way that we're going about it that is making the federal government respond? Let's not forget, the reason why we had the Twitter saga is, first and foremost, Mr. President's tweet. And the fact that people reported that tweet and saying it was sensitive, it was triggering, etc., etc. Now we don't have Twitter in Nigeria. But we were asking for the president to speak on issues of insecurity, and the president spoke. It didn't go down well with a lot of people. They felt targeted. Yes, that's a different conversation. But how are we going about it? The way we're going about it, the conversations that we're having, the push and the shove, is it being done violently? Could that also be the reason why government is responding the way they're responding?
Well, for any good government, there must be an interest of the needs of the people. You need to find out why people are protesting, agitating, or making a request. It is a matter of they are calling for your attention. And once they don't get that attention, they move to the next step. And that is the problem, not only with this government. Just like I told you, we know about the mass-up that was in existence before this hype-up came in. I think this hype-up came in a way, I think, towards the end of Jonathan's government. If I can remember, towards the end of Jonathan's government. So they came in such a way that to pass a message to the government. But the government is not yearning to that. And before you know it, they started spreading, increasing in numbers. And before you know what was happening, they already have the strength, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. A good government would have invited someone, the leaders of hypo, sit down, let's talk. But we have found ourselves in a situation, at this as a nation, whereby once we have a leader in the government, such leader is not interested in the reason. What he's interested in is to keep such groups, to keep them mute, to ensure they are not speaking out their mind. Because they see every protest, every agitation as anti-government, and which of course is not so.
Barrister Chukwu, can you come in here? Because, like I said, I wanted to ask you that question initially. How we're going about it. Now, let me just cast your mind back to how Nnamdi Kanu was arrested. Before he was arrested, while he was in Nigeria and arraigned in court, and before he jumped bail, we saw what happened. We saw what happened in his hometown. Now, let me also take your mind to what happened in the Igboho residence, which is still a matter that's in court, so we might not necessarily discuss that. Could it be something in the way that they are enunciating their demands, or could it be something in the way that they're regrouping, I don't know, recruiting people to be part of, their groups or their agitation? I'm trying to understand why the government would, first and foremost, prescribe IPOB, and then now is saying to the Yoruba nation, we might just judge you by the company that you keep, meaning that in no time we might just group you with those terrorists and probably be, termed as terrorists also in the nearest future. But let us look at the manner in which they're going about these agitations.
Okay, let me begin by saying that yes, if we look at the manner in which, or the pattern or the tactics adopted by or being used by the agitators, we may find some few areas where I think I would say that they shouldn't have gone that way. But again, let us also look at the federal government, or let's look at government, because the social contract simply endows the power that citizens endow their power to government, then government in turn will now protect them and at best act like a father. I would say that federal government did not also do well in some ways, because if people are agitating at the beginning of this agitation, if government had approached it via dialogue, maybe we wouldn't have gotten to the point that we are today. Because I still believe, and I think that, because if you look at the beginning point of IPOB, most of the issues that they raised, I think maybe through which they were able to convince so many people to have sympathy for them or to join them, may have been issues of inequality in the system, or some of the policies of government that they felt may not have favored a particular ethnic group. I think at that point, the federal government or government had at least intervened and had a dialogue with them, or set up a committee or a commission or whatever that may reach out to them and see how some of their challenges or some of the issues that they raised may be attended to. I think they are human beings. If you check, as at that point, I can tell you that the interest of those agitators at that point wasn't to balkanize Nigeria. It was to see whether or not federal government will look into the problem and again try to solve the problem. Okay. We had a bigger challenge sometime in the past under the Yar'Adua administration, when the Niger Delta was also agog, making so many demands. That government was able to, in fact, the then vice president also had to go to the Greek, and he met with them. Some of them they used chartered flight to bring some of them to Abuja and negotiated with them. Federal government was able to douse tension. In this, one thing that we must know, and I think government must take that into cognizance, is that military or the use of force no longer solves problem in any part of the world. Even in US, even in UK and all kinds of, in all the other countries.
Okay.
Might or force no longer solves problem. Because at the end of the day, by the time you start using force, maybe somehow some of the security agencies may also be affected, and the so-called agitators may be affected. At the end of the day, the thing will snowball into something that everybody will not, that the whole country will be running helter-skelter or finding solution to solve the problem.
Let's hope that it doesn't get to that point. Let's hope. But let's see if we can establish contacts with Nii Babade again. Mr. Babade, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Great.
Let's talk about the emergence of Sunday Igboho and the Yoruba nation. And let's not forget, Sunday Igboho as a person, of course, came out of the woodworks as a result of something that happened in the Southwest. Now, we also have the Odua People's Congress, and now it's being called the Yoruba Nation. And the Are Ona Kankafo is also spearheading that. And he's been very vocal about some of the things that has happened in the country. So looking at all of these agitations and pairing it, because look, all three regions are at the United Nations right now protesting, and they're all protesting for one reason or the other. Some are asking that the president step down. Some are saying they want secession. The others are saying help the country, it's bleeding. I mean, they all have different, but there's one unifying voice, which is they're trying to be heard. Now, let's talk about the Yoruba nation. If the presidency is putting out this warning to the Yoruba nation, does it affect the agitations of the Yoruba nation? And is it everyone that is from the Southwest that agrees with or welcomes the idea of the Yoruba nation?
Yes. Thank you. What Nigeria is witnessing right now is a government that is insensitive. How do I mean? I always advise of democracy, which is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, should be changed when it comes to Nigeria issue. Because Nigeria, right? Because it's so painful and it's so.
I think we lost him again. Unfortunately, the connection is really bad and we're unable to hear him. So we're just going to leave it at that. But I think he was trying to make a point that what we're experiencing now is that the whole country is trying to be heard at the same time. And insecurity is obviously the order of the day. So now that the president is at the United Nations, I mean, we've seen people protest in London when the president is going for his medical checkups. We see people protesting. It doesn't really change anything. So before we wrap up this conversation, because we're almost out of time, do we see the government shifting grounds anytime soon with this message that has been put out? Because the government is citing the fact that in the southeast, there have been government installations that have been targeted. INEC offices have been burned down. Police stations have been burned down. A lot of havoc has been wreaked. And let's not also forget about the sit-at-home order, which has affected businesses, have affected people's means of livelihood. And then there's an election coming up in November where some people have been told not to show up for the election. So looking at all of these things that the federal government is pointing to, they obviously seem like threats, but do we see the federal government shifting grounds anytime soon and bringing the people, like you said, to the table?
This government I know of, I've not seen the government shifting ground. This government is doing everything possible to either keep you short, maim you, or you kill you.
Well, that's a heavy allegation to make. Who's the government killed?
Well, government killed the people.
How?
The people that the government is ruling, that the government is ruling, leading. As long as you are protesting, as we experienced the dead NSAS in the year 2020, as long as you are protesting against the government can send soldiers there and there. At that dispatch, and by the way, in the process, the soldiers will start using the gun, ammunitions to kill, just like what happened last year. So it has happened, and it will happen. This government, I'm saying, this government I know of is not ready to shift. As long as their own image is intact, as long as they are protecting the image of the government, they are less interested in anything. In fact, the agitation we are talking about, the truth is, the real people who are agitating for Yoruba nations, they are not even in Nigeria. You get? That is why you see millions of them, thousands of them, protesting or doing a lot of things. They are actually doing it outside this nation. And the reason why the government is happy about this thing is this. The Yoruba nation before now had communicated to the United Nations to give a speech during the General Assembly. But I want to believe that it became impossible for them because the Vice President of the United Nations, or is it Vice President or Deputy Secretary General, is a Nigerian who happens to be a Fulani woman. You get my point? Definitely would not allow that to say through her.
And you're just. I mean, you're just making this up because you obviously she hasn't come out to say that she will stop that.
That's it.
So these are all speculations.
Yes, that's why I use that word. Would not have allowed that. You get, would not have allowed that to happen because he's representing the government, which is Nigerian government. So,
well, she's representing the United Nations.
In the United Nations, definitely is. But as long as she's a Nigerian, the Nigerian blood will still be in her vein.
Okay. In closing, Barrister Chukwu, like I asked him, we see a lot of things happening in the country where, I mean, the country has a lot on its plate, including Mr. President. And we're dealing with insecurity. We're dealing with the deep dive of the economy. Our naira is nothing to, I mean, compared to the dollar. I think as at yesterday was 550. I mean, point to anything now. We really can't say that things are really going well for us, even though statistics has it that the number of people that have been abducted or killed lately has reduced. But then the elections are just around the corner, and I've asked somebody this question before. Do we see government changing or moving, in a direction that might want to appease the people, at least, being that they would be wanting our votes in a few months?
I think government will shift grants. Once they get, that's why programs like this, I think should be encouraged, so that government will also get ideas from people. I think government will shift grants. What is needed now is for the federal government to set up a truce commission or committee. Let that committee tour the geopolitical zones, especially the ones that are agitating, and at least for the first time, let them itemize, even if it's a list of 1 to 10. Let them itemize the reason behind the agitations or the reasons behind the protests. Then, based on the report of the truth commission or committee, federal government can move on from there and see whether they can enlarge it to include the principal actors or the people that are championing these agitations. Then, on the strength of that, I think that if federal government does that, then we can say that government has shifted grants, and that I can tell you, we may make progress. We may make progress, because when you ignore people like that, what you're telling them is that they are insignificant. And when you say people are insignificant, I think they will want to, maybe through a lawful means or so, show you that they are significant. Let the federal government reach out to middle belt, reach out to southwest, reach out to southeast, reach out to south-south. Reach out to all the people, even the Northwest and all that. Reach out to them. Let's have a discussion. This nation belongs to us. We have no other nation. I think if federal government does that, we might be able to douse tension. Then finally, the rhetorics from the president's media people, to me, need to change. The way most of the comments that are being bandied in the press or linked to them, I do not think that will not engender unity. Even using the language that Yoruba nation or whatever will be judged by the company. How can one man be talking about a people that from statistics are well over 40, 50 million? You don't talk to people like that. Let those rhetorics or the language or whatever that is coming from the handlers of Mr. President and all the other people, let them tone it down. Okay. Let them not inflame this society the more. Nigeria has suffered so much within the past 3-4 years. At the international level, Nigeria is like a pariah state. Nigeria is no longer reckoned with. Even in Africa, even in West Africa, how long shall we continue like this? They need to have a change of heart. Stop talking the way they are talking. That will not help us. Okay.
Well, Lee Babade is an international journalist. Obina Chiku is a barrister at law, and Babashola Adewi is a political analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we return, we will discuss the ruling APC persuading former President Goodluck Jonathan to join its party. How true is it? We'll be right back.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
The All Progressive Congress APC has offered former President Goodluck Jonathan a chance to run for office on its platform should he defect to the party. It said the former president will be given an opportunity to contest for the 2023 presidency if he joins the ruling party. Now, this was said by the National Secretary of the APC Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee, John Akpan Udoyidege. He said this when he was asked about the speculations that Jonathan is considering to join the ruling party. The APC official also said the ex-president will be granted a founding member status if he joins. He, however, added that the opportunity will be given to former President Goodluck Jonathan. It would not be automatic, noting that he would have to compete with other members of the party before getting the ticket. Well, joining us to discuss this is Francis Chilaka. He is a political analyst, and of course, still staying with us in the studio is Babashala Adebui. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you, Francis, for joining us. Yeah, so I'm going to start with you, Francis. We've heard feelers, and these are unconfirmed reports. And by the way, I'd like to just put it there that the spokesperson of former President Goodluck Jonathan has come out to say that the president hasn't moved to any party, and if he does, that it would be communicated properly. But then we've seen many people moving to the APC as we speak. Femi Fani-Kayode has just joined the APC. After he had said, I still remember that particular one where he said he would rather die that joined the APC, but he's alive, he's in the APC, I'd like to let you know. And as we speak, there, I think a senator, if I'm not mistaken, or a member of the National Assembly in Rivers State has recently dumped the PDP, as at today, and joined the APC. And the list is endless. We've seen so many cross-capiting from the PDP to the APC. What's with this story of Mr. President or former President Jonathan joining the APC? What change would it make? It's not that the APC has a different ideology compared to that of the PDP, is it?
I think the whole thing is that suddenly we're faced in a country where we no longer have men and women of proven integrity. Everybody's thinking of what they want to eat and what they want to drink. So I think that's where the whole problem lies. It will be shameful and sad if former President Goodluck Jonathan decides to join the APC. I won't be surprised, so to say, but it will be very, very sad and shameful of him to do that. Because if you go back and try to read through all the comments, all the abuses hurled at him by members of APC that are now asking him to come and join them, you ask yourself, are politicians suffering from dementia or something? Is that something that we're not aware of as people that the politicians are aware of? Because it's for me, it is completely laughable, it is completely unacceptable, and does not hold water in a civilized society that we all belong to.
I'm confused as to why you're sad, or why you're saying you will be sad, or why you're saying that it would be very embarrassing. The members of the APC, most of them, were members of the PDP. So, again, what is the fuss if a former president of this country, who used to be in the People's Democratic Party, decides to join the APC? Being that the APC seems to be, I mean, all the political parties are facing, they're having their fair share of, internal party crisis. But for the PDP, it seems to be most obvious because the headship or the leadership of the party seems to, be shaking. And so we see a lot more people. We saw members of the ruling council in the party move to the APC. Why the fuss? If former President Goodluck Jonathan goes to the APC, will it help the APC to win elections in 2023? Will it change, the hopes of the people of Nigeria? What exactly is it? Is it just because he's a former president and he was on the opposite side when the APC, was trying to get power? Why are we so sad or feel disappointed if this even happens?
Is there anything new that you think Goodluck will bring to the Nigerian society? Because, his government was demonized by the same carcass of APC that are now asking him to come back. So I don't understand, why are we so fixated about APC? Everybody's jumping into APC as if we're running a one-party state. See, it's not about the party. It's more about the selfish interest of individuals, people without ideology. And that is what's playing out. People are not, those we call political leaders or politicians, so to say, are not particular about the well-being of Nigerians. They're not thinking about the welfare of the ordinary Nigerians. It's about what they will get, how much of the national cake they will get for themselves and their cronies. So whenever anybody jumps party, I just laugh, because all it means is that they have no integrity, they have no ideology, they have no self-worth. So it's all about, how much am I going to make out of the system? How much am I going to milk out of the Nigerian people? And it is high time that the Nigerian people will wake up from their sleep and realize that these politicians have nothing good for them. We must begin to think out of the box and begin to think of voting people not based on party affiliations, but based on individuals, what they're bringing to the table and what they have been able to do for the Nigerian people.
Babashala, just taking up from where he stopped, good governance should be the core of our conversations. This should be a front burner issue. And the country is faced, like I said, we're riddled with a lot of issues that need to be addressed. But then our headlines, the major headlines on our national dailies, about who's moving to this party and who's, and we're here on this show, unfortunately, speculating if a former president is going to move from party A to party B, and it's not that it's a Republican Party and let's say a Labour Party. It's the same group of people, just changing party logos. Are we also not the creators of the problems that we're facing in the country if we are letting these same politicians set the agenda?
Well, every politician has every right to move to any political party they desire. But however, it shows the lack of ideology individual has and not the political party. So far, so good. I have no issue with APC as a political party. I have no issue with PDP as a political party. The issue I have with the two of them is just the people in those political parties. Because the people in those political parties has a different ideology, totally different from that of political party, and which has, in one way or the other, overridden what the political party has as ideology or objectives or goal. So if we are to go by the objectives of these political parties, we will discover that a lot of things would have changed in this country for better. But the people in those political parties are actually using their own personal interest. They are actually using their own personal interest to kill the interest of the political party. Now, if anybody leaves A to B in this country, as of today, is as a matter of self-interest. What he or she is going to benefit from that party is moving to. For Jonathan, he's not there yet. It has not been confirmed that he's in PDP. But the truth is, I will not be surprised. I will not be disappointed if he moves, because that is the way. That's the way we have seen our leaders leading our country. They believe that as long as you are still existing, you still need to be influential, you still need to have benefit, you still need to have control. So they rather move to where they can have all those three than for them to be where they will be irrelevant.
But then we watch these things. You and I, we're Nigerians, we're voting, we're part of the voting populace. We're here. We know these things. We're talking now. The public is listening. But we feel these happenings. We feel these movements. There are people who are diehard followers of the former presidents. There's people who are diehard followers of all of these politicians. And so we seem to be aiding and abating these movements, and we applaud them. But then the major issues that we need to be addressed are never addressed. So I rephrase my question again. Are we not part of the problem?
Well, we are part of the problem. The reasons why we are part of the problem is, number one, we vote by the person. We vote for the person. Most especially those who have popularity, those who have money to spend, and those who sell to us dummy manifestos. We are not interested in those who have the experience on how to turn wealth. We are not interested in those who have that ideology that can make things better. We are not interested in those who can do things in the way we actually want. We are only interested in those who have the money to spend, and that is why we are where we are today. You
just touched on something. I was listening to Professor Mulumba, if I'm not, I think he's a Kenyan activist and lawyer, and I listened to a voice note of his. He was saying that the average African is no longer interested in you waxing, lyrical when you're trying to tell them what you want to change and what you want to do. They listen to you very carefully, and then at the end of the day, they say, well, we've heard you, but we're hungry. So all this English you are speaking, if you do not give us money, it makes no sense. So, Francis, how do we change this narrative? Because, like I said, our newspapers, the stories that are feeling our news bars are basically those stories that are made by politicians. And so the interest of the average Nigerian is lost in all of this conversation. And we're supposed to be the ones setting the tone for the conversation. It should be the government of the people, by the people, for the people. But then it seems to be the other way around. The government of the politicians, by the politicians, for the politicians. So how do we change that narrative? How do we stop the hunger politics and begin to push for a government that is people-minded and people-oriented?
Well, let me start by saying that what is playing out in Nigeria is more poverty of the mind and not poverty of the stomach, as people want us to believe. Unfortunately, those who call themselves politicians, Nigeria is a country where the politicians have become professional. It has become a professional job to be a politician. And because of that, they throw in everything into it. And as usual, they have programs that do not uplift the people. So the people are impoverished, the people are hungry, and then during the election period, what do? They bring out little of what they have stolen from the people and give back to the people as, that. Well, you see, the thing is, we need to have proper voters' education. This is the time INEC, the National Orientation Agency, the Ministry of Information, all the CSOs around should start educating the Nigerian people.
But those are government
especially
agencies, apart
the
from
people
INEC,
in the rural
apart from
areas.
INEC, sorry, Francis, apart from INEC, these other government agencies you're calling, they don't come alive until when it's almost the eve of, elections. So
that's what I'm saying.
So how are they supposed to rise up if they do not have the wherewithal, if they're not given the mandates, if they're not given the monies? The NOA cannot function inside their office. To do some form of orientation, they need to be given some monies to be able to do that. And we don't see that happening.
For them? Are you saying that they are not being given money?
Well, I mean,
those who work in these establishments receive salary. Two, this establishment.
Okay, let me put it to you. When was the last time you turned on TV, your television, or listened to the radio and you heard an advertorial, or let's say an announcement by the NOA in the past few, aside from the 2015 and the 2019 elections? When was the last time you heard?
So we're coming to this. I'm saying the same thing with you, but the point is that we seem to have a system that is operating under one man. The system runs under the executive. We have the judiciary, that one on their own problem is there. We have the legislators that we don't even know what they are doing. They don't know what they're doing. These are things that the legislators should be able to do, but they themselves too. They're all carried away by the largesse of the office they hold. We need to make governance uninteresting. We need to reduce the salaries of those in government. When you do that, you will find out that a lot of people will not be there today.
Francis, this sounds really great.
I'm coming.
Who's supposed to reduce the salaries of these politicians? It's the same politicians. It's the National Assembly. Who's saddled with that responsibility?
So see, when we keep saying we could, pushing the ball away from the reality on ground is that we need, as a matter of urgency, to have a working electoral process. We need it urgently. The youth of this country need to begin to realize that power belongs to them. And it is time they will take the power from those who are holding them hostage.
How do they take this power?
Our political leaders are holding this country hostage for personal and greedy gains. And we need to stop. People need to stop voting people just because of what they give to them. People need to start voting people who are ready to work, who are ready to deliver to them. Until we face this reality as a people, this country will never move forward.
Okay. Well, Francis Chilaka is a political analyst, and so is Babashola Adegui. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being part of the conversation. We're really hoping that something will change. Well, thank you all for being part of this conversation. And even those of you who've been watching, we will be back tomorrow with a fresh conversation on Plus Politics. I am Mary Anna Cohn. Do have a good evening.
Your treacherous body would have been manure for the motherland. Listen to the words of a corpse. You cannot win this war.
My production career started off practically by some form of divine intervention. I work in TV production, and I've done that in advertising for over 20 years. I do storytelling as well. I do narrative. I've done films, TV series, etc. I taught myself to draw. And that meant 4 hours of sketching every day, minutely competent, where people will say, this doesn't suck. You actually had to practice.
For God's sake, Emeka, we don't even have enough guns or food. What were you thinking?
If you and Uzogu had not unleashed your unique brand of madness last January, we wouldn't be swimming in Biafran blood.
It was a revolution!
I was one of my uncles, and he got me a job in, then it was Vanguard newspapers in Apapa. And I got to meet all my heroes because in those days, I knew every cartoonist of every Nigerian publication by name because I would always look for the signature. Advertising was obviously the way to go. English then, if you're doing English, you're either going to be a teacher or something. I was like, no, this is a cool industry. This industry is really cool. It's really being paid to be creative. I was sent around the agency to learn every aspect of advertising. And when I got to TV production, the then head of TV production of ESO and U, then Mr. Greg Odutayo, said to me, okay, I want him. So he just made a request. There are many highlights. I've won awards for films I've made, TV series I've done. But let me just jump forward. The most recent thing I've done I'm extremely proud of is being one of the 3 directors on MTV Sugar, Niger. And you have to learn. So when I came into production, I was always asking questions. So I was on a quest to know why this visual image was better than this visual image. And that got me into studying and learning about production. It helps to be always focused on what will make you win. There's a very healthy sense of motivating yourself to always get things right. Make sure your work is up to standard. It resembles anything else across any other platform across the world. The second thing is it must have your identity. It must have your strong cultural identity.
My father has a lot of sides, and you hear about the fights. You don't hear about family that much and what that meant to him.
What's your dad's name?
Muhammad Ali.
No one, not even some members of his family, knew of the existence of these audio tapes until recently.
Mary, you're now 11 years old.
They thread the narrative of the boxing champion's life in Claire Lewis's documentary. Ali's daughter, Hannah, offered the tapes to Lewis.
Say, I love my daddy.
I love my daddy. I love my poo-poo head daddy.
Okay.
My father was always conscious about history. And, I think that's one of the reasons why he made this series of audio tape cassette recordings.
Say, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
The film shows the whole world in love with him. Testimonials of friends and adversaries paint the Olympian and 3-time boxing champion Cassius Clay, later Muslim convert Muhammad Ali, as a sensitive, poignant, and courageous man. Because he refused to serve in the Vietnam War, he was stripped of his championship title, and his boxing license was revoked. His close friend, former football player Jim Brown, remembers.
He had a lot of courage. The risk he had to take, and then to be isolated, to have his crown taken away, not be able to make a living, that was difficult.
But he stuck to his convictions, and in 1974, at the age of 32, Ali made a comeback.
When George Foreman meets me, he'll pay his debt. I can drown a drink of water and kill a dead tree. Wait till you see Muhammad Ali.
He defeated formidable George Foreman and recaptured his title.
I get into the ring with the guy, I bluffed him, I done everything. Beat him up basically for about 5 or 6 rounds. I thought it was easy. Then about the 6th round, he whispered in my ear after I'd hit him in the side, "That all you got, George?" And that was about all I had.
I Am Ali does not say much about his broken marriages, but it highlights his bond with his children.
I was the concord of boxing. I was at a high altitude than the rest, moving fast.
As Ali has aged, we hear him begin to slur his words, a sign of developing Parkinson's disease. He finally retired in the late 1970s, and in the mid-80s he was diagnosed with Parkinson's. But to the world and his children, he remains an icon of power and grace.
If anyone wonder why me, Muhammad Ali, is making these tapes, is because history is so beautiful.
Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Welcome to The Breakfast.
A breakfast where we unbundle top and big stories of the day.
Is vaccine the only way out of this pandemic?
No, definitely not.
Many Ghanaians just